What's up, guys? I'm here with baseball advisor Dave Filoni, and my name is Matt Carpenter. We're here to discuss the major rule changes that are going on in baseball, some playoff news, some playoff predictions, discussing playoffs from last year, and some other news coming from spring training. Lead it away, Dave.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. There's three rules changes I thought we'd talk about today. One is the pitch timer. We'll start off with that. The new rule, where there had been no clock before, you now have 15 seconds as the pitcher if the bases are empty. You have 15 seconds to pitch the ball, and if not, that's a violation and bad things could happen.
Meanwhile, I believe Manny has just been called for a violation. Not getting in the box in time. Yeah, it's 0-1 as he stands in, and now the pitch is high. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Typical Manny, no sweat off his back. Didn't even have a reaction.
Got to look back at the umpire and was like, all right. So if you have Machado in your pool, there you go. 1-1 is high. 2 balls and a strike. So you have Manny.
The guy on base. Before, it's almost unlimited, right? Like, you could just...
That's true.
Take your time, however you want. But now, I mean, I guess major execs up at the MLB offices, they just want to speed up the games a bit. I don't blame them. I mean, baseball games take a long time. Some go in 5 hours, 4 hours, majority are 3. But yeah, I could see how they want to speed up the game a little bit. And yeah, it's going to be a tough time for pitchers this year. Totally new experience. Last year, I think it's going to be a tough thing to overcome over the season.
Well, that's why they're taking spring training to get used to the new rules. Obviously, they want to move games under 3 hours, and so far, games have been clocking in at about 2 hours and 40 minutes this spring. So that seems to be working. The next big rules change is the limit on shifts, although you can still shift, but the new rule is you have to have 2 infielders on each side of second base with both feet on the dirt or infield grass. So the days of the third baseman and the shortstop moving over into somewhere into shallow right field are now over. You could still move one of your outfielders into shallow right field, like taking your left fielder over to shallow right field, but your infielders, you got to have 2 on each side. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, shifts are a huge part of defensive baseball. Last year was so prevalent, and of course all the years before, dating all the way back to old baseball. So yeah, shifts are really hitting hard on the defensive side. And last year, I think I've heard before that shifts were they were being too effective, almost like all the time. If lefty batter was up, they would almost shift all of their infielders over there. They'd have 3 guys on the dirt, almost like 2 outfielders in shallow mid-right field. It's just, I mean, I could get what they're putting at. I could see how shifts could become a big problem, but I don't think they're that big of a problem. But if it's taken away from major scoring games or games becoming high scoring or whatever, I mean, I could see how that could be a problem. But other than that, I think it's a decent rule change. I mean, it's kind of like the pitch timer. It's a really big part of the game, and so yeah, you don't know what the players are going to react to that.
Well, I think the pitchers are going to be unhappy because I think batting average is going to go up. Right now, the batting average as of this point in spring is 8 points higher. It's 323 so far, as opposed to 315 at the same time last year. So that means that you could have the in-season, the regular season average is, I think, obviously going to go up because it's going to be easier to get a hit because you don't have as many shifts going on.
Yeah, I could see how the batting average could go up. Yeah, that could lead to a lot of guys having averages over 300. So that could also improve just the general welfare of the game. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mention that because the batting average on balls in play last year was 315 in spring training, and then the regular season batting average on balls in play was 290.
Wow.
So this year, it's 8 points higher right now. It's 323 in spring training on balls in play, which means we can expect maybe for balls that are, in play, we're not talking about every ball that's hit. We're just talking about balls that are in play. They're going to basically, with the shift being reduced, you could see that average be somewhere around 300. Again, this is just for the batting average on balls in play as opposed to overall batting average. And the big problem is somewhere around 35% of all balls in play last year, all plays last year, whereas either a walk, a strikeout, or a home run, none of those involve a fielder, and that can be kind of boring. The home run's exciting, but seeing guys just strike out one after the other or get a walk, that also kind of slows down the game. So I think with more balls going in for a hit, and now the pitch timer, we're going to see some batting averages go up. You're going to see the game come in under 3 hours. And now this last one is larger bases. The bases are now 18 by 18 rather than 15 inches by 15 inches. What impact do you think that's going to have on the game?
Definitely a huge impact. I mean, it's now 18 by 18. That is a huge base. That's pretty big. I could see a lot of players running past the bases faster. They have a larger target for their foot to be placed on. Maybe more stolen bases, But other than that, I think it just affects where the player puts his feet and how fast it can go from one base to another.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. If we look at some statistics, this time last year in spring training, there was 0.7 stolen base attempts per spring training game last year. Right now, it's 1.17. So, and their success rate right now in spring training at stealing bases is 81%. Last year, it was 73. So I think you're going to see a lot more stolen bases. That's always exciting. You're going to see a lot more hitting and balls falling in safely, and you're going to see pitchers having to, keep moving. So I think so far the experiment with these 3 new rules, the larger bases, the pitch clock, and a serious reduction in legal shifts, you're going to see a lot more enjoyable game. And I'll just say one more thing about that before we switch to our predictions for the Yankees and the Red Sox. The World Baseball Classic is going on right now.
Oh, yeah.
The American team is heavily favored. They were playing Great Britain today, and I believe they won 6-1. But the World Baseball Classic is not using the pitch clock, and people are reporting that, flipping back between a spring training game and a World Baseball Classic game, the WBC games now seem a little slow because they're averaging a little over 3 hours, whereas the spring training games with the pitch clock are clocking in at about 2:43 or something along those lines.
Yeah, should we touch on the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, I think it's other than crossing your fingers, none of your team's guys get hurt. It's a wonderful way to grow the sport. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, countries from Europe are playing baseball. Czechoslovakia is in the World Baseball Classic along with Great Britain and various other European countries. Italy is in there. Mostly Italian Americans playing with them. But some local Italians, which is cool. And even baseball broadcasts out all over the world, mostly on the American continents, but sometimes, in Europe, and especially Japan. Japan's in a pool. China, Australia, Taiwan, I believe, is playing too. Yeah, they're playing all over the world. I think they're playing somewhere they're playing in Tokyo, Phoenix, Miami, and I think China, maybe. And yeah, it's really cool seeing all these countries get introduced or, actually play baseball, which is really cool. I mean, even though the U.S. is sort of favored because it's sort of our sport. But yeah, I think other countries have a shot.
Definitely. I think you got a lot of major league players spread out amongst all these
Oh, yeah.
international teams. From what I've heard, the team from Japan is stacked. The starting pitching, Shohei Ohtani is in there from the Angels.
Yeah.
Then they have two other starters that are very, very good. The Dominican team is stacked. Juan Soto is probably one of the best players of his generation. He got traded to the San Diego Padres last year. He certainly is going to lead the very, very talented Dominican team. So I look forward to seeing how that comes out. And speaking of predictions, I just thought we'd end today by talking a little bit about the American League East. What are your thoughts on the Yankees and the Red Sox and maybe the American League East?
You know, even though the Yankees have had a productive offseason with trades, I mean, a lot of guys underwent surgery this past few months. I mean, they picked up a few guys. They picked up Carlos Rendon from the Giants for a pretty big contract, and then he had to go under surgery. A few more other guys. I can't think of them right off the top of my head, but a majority of their guys are not going to be playing on opening day, which is sad because they're really good. They're really good players. I mean, they deserve the shot, obviously, but you know, injuries totally random, so you can't really know when or where you're gonna have one. But yeah, I think the Yankees are gonna have a productive season, along with the Red Sox, who are having a really good spring training right now. I think they're first in the Grapefruit League. Yeah, I think they're gonna pull off a pretty good season, even though last year they ended last place. They were 78-84 record. 15 games behind, I believe. And the Rays, the Blue Jays, and Orioles, they all have a shot too. I mean, the Rays came in second place last year. They have a lot of good guys. So do the Blue Jays and the Orioles. The Orioles, they had that number one prospect catcher, right? What was his name? Do you remember?
Adley Rutschman.
Yeah. Yeah, he did really well last year. I mean, even though they came in fourth, they still have a chance to, get the lucky spots 1, 2, and 3. But yeah, I think those are my predictions. And everywhere else, I think it's pretty much the same. In the NL East, that's a really good division too. Hopefully the Mets won't fall apart this year.
Most effective.
Grounded slowly to third. Manny charges is. Now plays the hop. Throw to first is in time. And the Padres have not only captured the moment, they have captured the wild card series. And it's on to Los Angeles for Game 1 of the NLDS Tuesday night at Dodger Stadium. There will be playoff baseball at Petco Park in 2022.
And so will the Dodgers. They had the best record last year, and they were a first-round exit.
A 50-year demon. 0-2, swing and a miss. Freeman went after a slider in the dirt, and the ball game is over. The series is over. And the Padres have slayed the Dragon. They defeat the Dodgers in 4 games to advance to the National League Championship Series. They will play for the pennant beginning on Tuesday night here at home against the Phillies.
It's totally unbelievable. Even though I had Trey Turner, who else? Mookie Betts, of course. Justin Turner, I think. They traded Bellinger away to the Cubs, right?
Yeah, and I think Justin Turner is going to be on the Red Sox.
Wow.
He came in as a first baseman, although he got hit in the face, so he's questionable. He's got stitches.
Oh.
So I think, and I would agree with this, the Yankees look like the front runner, although certainly they've had injuries to the back end of the rotation with Carlos Rodon and Frankie Montas. But the offense looks good. There's some good competition at shortstop. They have their great rookie, Anthony Volpe, who looks like he's going to be a great player, although they may keep him down in the minors one more year to avoid having to pay him.
That's kind of...
Yeah, well, that's the way it works in terms of saving some money. Blue Jays look good. I think if the pitching holds up, they've got a very good offense.
Yeah, what's his name? He came in first for the ERA, right? He had like a 1 point something.
Yep, they have they brought in Chris Bassett, who I think was on the Mets. And then, of course, they have some good defense with Kevin Kiermaier and
Oh,
center
yeah.
field. I think the Rays were predicted to be a little bit higher, but obviously their best pitcher, Tyler Glasnow, getting hurt certainly throws that into question. And essentially they're kind of the same team, only with that injury. I think it's going to be tough for them. Same thing for the Orioles. Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Cedric Mullins, they're all pretty good. But they didn't do too much in the offseason to kind of get them over to the next level. And then the Red Sox, I think everybody would agree letting Xander Bogaerts go was very disappointing. And they brought in Justin Turner. They brought in a really good outfielder from Japan, Matsutaka Yoshida. They brought in a veteran, Adam Duvall. Yankee cast-off Corey Kluber is pitching for the Red Sox.
Wow.
So I think they're, and now Trevor Story is hurt. I think they could be fighting their way to 500, unless, of course, Chris Sale, who a lot of people are saying if he's healthy, that could be the big difference maker. But in summary, I think you've got the Yankees looking like first, maybe the Blue Jays in second, the Rays in third, the Orioles in fourth, and barring a miracle, the Red Sox are going to be tough to break 500 with a kind of weak pitching staff, and the loss of Bogaerts at short really throws a lot into question. So
Yeah.
those are my thoughts on the changes to the rules and the predictions for the AL East, and I'm looking forward to this season.
Do you want to do a quick playoff prediction?
Sure.
All right. Definitely there's only one team from the AL Central even made it close to the wild card. That was the who was it last year that made it? To the AL Central. Was it the White Sox? I think. Did Tim Anderson carry them?
The Indians, I think, snuck in there, and the Yankees beat the Indians, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah. And then from the AL West, who came in from the AL West?
The Dodgers.
Well, that's the NL West. The AL West, Astros, obviously. Maybe the Angels, I think. Definitely the Astros coming in. NL East, Mets, Phillies, definitely, I think. Mets trying not to sell in the playoffs like they did last year. The Central, probably the Cardinals, I think. But, some of those teams might actually be good this year. Maybe the Cubs, since they have Bellinger, but maybe he might not do too well. And then the NL West, finally, definitely the Dodgers, Padres, but maybe some other team, like the Giants, they might come up. Definitely not the Diamondbacks, I don't think. And the Rockies, I think they were last in the division last year, so probably not them. But yeah, I think the first seed, I personally think it's going to be the Astros again. And then the first seed for the NL, I'm going to go with the Dodgers.
Going with the Dodgers.
Yeah, best record last year. I think that might come back, or they're having a tough hangover from their really unfortunate playoff loss to the Padres last year. But yeah, I think they could sneak their way into a number one spot.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree. The Padres look good. The Phillies look good, maybe with a healthy outfielder in
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper, sorry. My brain's tired at this point in the day. The Mets look good. The pitching staff looks good with Verlander coming in. And the Cardinals also look pretty tough, but I think a lot of people would agree the Padres are stacked. They're going to have a full season of Jay Bell and Juan Soto in there. Maybe Tatis comes back. So I think you'll see all those teams in the mix over there. Some teams we've already mentioned, the Yankees, the Guardians. Seattle Mariners, I think, are going to make some noise.
Yeah.
They have a pretty good squad. And, of course, the Twins got Carlos Correa back after he failed his physical, essentially, with the Mets and came back to the Twins. And I think the Astros and the Blue Jays are going to be in the hunt. I know Sports Illustrated, I think, is predicting the Blue Jays versus the Padres, with the Padres winning their first ever series. But I would not count the Yankees out. I really think they're loaded in terms of talent. And so I think they're going to make a run. It's been since 2009 that the Yankees have won the series. It's a pretty long drought for the Yankees, so I think they're kind of due.
Definitely.
And you got a full, you got Aaron Judge coming in as the captain. He got his contract. I think he's going to have a good year again.
Yeah, he's making what, $20,000 an hour?
Yeah, something like that. And shockingly, we can say he's worth it.
Yeah.
But here's to a awesome baseball season, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh yeah. Well, that's it, folks. Hope you enjoy this little segment we have here on the Sports Broadcasting Podcast. Hope to see you next episode. Thank you.